Welcome again to Embroidery Stitches of the SCA period, yeah, that's it, Embroidered Stitches of, or Embroidery of the SCA period. I'm Agnes Berenguer de Harona, and my brain is not working completely as well as it should be, but that's okay. We don't need it to work completely well. Sorry about all the moving around. Anyways, so today we're going to try something new. Today we are trying to do we're going to be doing long arm cross stitch. Now this is not, now that I've gone through all the original stitches that were in my first video, I am now that I've shown how to do all those, I'm going into some of the other medieval period stitches, because they're not the only ones. There were several others. One of them is being long-armed cross-stitch. Long-arm cross-stitch is not used as much anymore as it used to be. Sometimes you see needle pointers using it, but it was quite in vogue in 14th century Germany, according to our friend Richard Weimark, who has a wonderful website that shows you all the different ways you can use brick stitch and long arm cross. So long arm cross, it is a little bit different than our regular cross stitch. We often, what we think of as cross stitch, and I'll be talking about what we consider, sometimes you hear somebody, it's becoming fewer and fewer, but as people become more, as people are doing more research, especially on the internet, and people are traveling a little bit more, the SCA is becoming more aware that even regular standard cross stitch that we use from, the regular old cross stitch that we've been using for years, that our grandmas taught us and our moms taught us, is actually period. There are examples of how it was used in period, but we need to understand how was something used. Not necessarily was it used, but how was it used? Like in this case, most of your extant pieces, these were the things that were used for cushions. So instead of using a like a bayou like the stitch that's used in the bayou tapestry, the laden couched work, people in the 14th century would make cushions and pouches and all kinds of things, instead of using a very weak stitch, because it is a weak stitch, it's not a really good stitch for that, they would use long arm cross stitch, they would use 10th stitch, they would use cross stitch, they would use, well, not in the 14th century, but the long arm cross stitch, they would use brick stitch. These were short stitches that held up well against the problems that you get. So let's bring us down to our work. Funny enough, I was going back and re-looking at what Richard Weimark was putting in his stitching, and he mentions, I lost my train of thought, but he mentions that, there are, well, I'll get back to it when I remember it, maybe, if I remember it. But he did, I was like reading it and I said, ooh, that's good to know. Anyways, we need to be starting this, we can start this under here. I'm kind of in a weird spot because I finished right at the corner. So I'm at a weird spot. And I'm going to pull that in. There's my little wee snot. There's this. Please do. The clashing and banging is my daughter. She just gave me a smile like, oh, hi, Mom. I love you, Mom. Okay. So, here's where we're at. Okay. I have done a weaving in the back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at it. And you see how this has this long arm. This is what makes it long arm cross stitch, is that long arm. I'm going to come down from that. I'm working with a 28 count natural linen. Okay, when they say it's natural, they mean it has not been bleached. Okay, that's actually a color of linen, is natural linen. It hasn't been bleached. Most of you, you know, and this linen does not need to be bleached in order to do this. So I'm doing essentially what is a cross stitch, right? I'm just doing a cross stitch here. So I'm going to go and do my little cross stitch. Try to keep I'm going to come down to the bottom. Now I'm going to do the long arm cross stitch, and I'm going to make sure it stays as I'm going to railroad. That's what they call that when you, you know, you split the threads. And then one of the things I'm going to do, I should have put this on this is on a frame, but I forgot to put it on a frame stand. But there it is. I just did that, and my frame stand isn't easily accessible. So we'll just have to wing it, as it were, my friends. Okay, so we're going to pull that up. We're going to go over here. We're going to go down. Ooh, I don't like the way that's looking as it's curling. And you don't want your thread to curl when you're bringing it down. So I'm going to make sure it's all nice and, you know, separated. And now I will go to the next one, which is right down here, because I'm using an even weave linen. I am not using Aida cloth. Never use Aida cloth if you can avoid it. Aida cloth is a Victorian invention that is the most horriblest stuff in the world. It looks ugly. Aida cloth. Aida cloth. It looks ugly. It doesn't give you a nice look when you're done. I've got cat hair on here. I'm going to have to take a... There we go. I got rid of that one. So anyway, so here we go. I am in the middle of filming, Kate. Can you take that to the kitchen, please? So I'm, again, going over. One of the things you want to do, this is a 28 count. And, oop, that twisted. And you don't want it to twist, because when it twists, it doesn't look pretty. And you want it to look pretty. See there, I've got it where it's not twisting, and I'm doing it to it. Okay, there. Okay, I'm back. Had a little technical difficulty. Anyways, so here we are, where we're at. I did put us on back on the on our thing here, and I'm going to take my glasses off. Okay, this is kind of, to a certain extent, the Germans. I don't know, maybe it's just a genetic thing. The Germans are really big into, at this 14th century mark, they're into this counted work, okay? It does seem like a lot of what they're doing at this point is what we would officially call counted work. And so you do see very specific patterns that are repeated frequently. So I am going to go through and get this stitched. Stitch to the, stitch till I end my thread, and then I will be right back. Okay, I've stitched all the way to this point in the, in this point of the square that we are working on. And now I'm going to make sure I'm all railroaded properly. I'm counting 2 over and 2 up because I want to be on this square. There we go. See, my threads are separated. I want them separated. I do not want them to be curling or crossing or doing anything like that, because it doesn't make a nice stitch. So I'm going to pull that down. Now I'm going to go down 2 again. 1, 2. Okay, come back up. Do my little railroadies so that I can keep them like railroad tracks on the thing. I'm going to come back down. Hopefully right where I'm going to, hold on a moment, I got to turn it a bit so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. Okay, come down. All right, do my little railroady here. Go over 2. Make sure that I'm where I need to be. Again, not easy to okay, so there's where I'm at. Coming down. That's your long arm. See there, that's the long arm. Okay, here we go. Oh, gotta go down to this one so that I can go over to this one. If I had one of my mini laying tools, which of course I don't have with me right now, I'd have to go searching for them, and of course I didn't when I had the chance. I could do this much easier than trying to do it with my needle and my hands, because I'd have it all being part of the stitch process. Okay, so down with our long arm, down to the next stitch. There's our short arm. Okay, now we are at the point where we're going to long arm this one. Okay, and I'm going to come back on it. And I'm going to do my cross. Okay. Then I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to do my weaving. So I'm going to go under the 2, 3 stitches. Pull. Put it on my needle minder for now so I don't lose my needle. See, over here I've got a stitch that needs to be pulled out. It's not a stitch, it's just where the start was, so I'm fixing it because it got mixed in with this. This is a good time to fix this. Make sure that these are looking nice. That'll help keep from getting too weird with my stitching. There we go, I think we're good. Alrighty. And then what I'm going to do, what I can do is I could restart. Or I'll start over here so you can see how I start. Okay, and then that way we've got this. Let's see, which one is that? That's that one. Okay. I got to look at my pattern. I actually have a pattern. See? Pattern. There's a pattern right there. And we got that one. So I think what I'm going to do, oh, okay, so that one has a white one right there. So what I can do is I can start my, I'm going to show you how you start this. This is how I was taught to start a long arm cross stitch, okay? Yes. Where is it? Okay, there it is. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to start by doing a single, I'm going to do a traditional cross stitch. I'm going to start with a traditional cross stitch. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, traditional cross stitch is just, 2 over 2 in this case. I'm stitching diagonally on 2/2, two weft threads over 2 warp threads. Okay, so there it is. Let's see if we can get this to kind of give a little more oomph so you can see. There we go. Hopefully you can see. I'm going to go back to the bottom corner. Okay, and then I'm going to go, this is 28 count, so I'm going to, but that means that I'm counting the warps. It would be equivalent to like a 14 count Aida, a 28 count. So really, if you have problems seeing a 14 count Aida, then you're going to have a problem finding a 28 count linen. But if you train your eyes, if you can look at a 14 count Aida and not have problems, then you definitely can do a 28 count. Actually, I'm thinking this is 36 count, which means that it's probably more of an 18 count Aida. But then I'm going to go, so I'm counting, there's that one, and so you're looking at your threads where they meet. I've got 1, 2, stick it in, or don't stick it in there, and then go up 2, 1, 2. Okay, and you come back down. But what I'm going to do when I first come up is try to get this, there we go, good. Boop, there we go. And I'm going to set this up like that. Come back in. I generally use, I stitch from this direction on when I'm using this stitch, because when I do my cross stitch over to up to, one whole stitch over to do that long arm, and I come straight down to 2 threads, because if I go down straight down or straight over from, if I go straight this way, I can see those threads, okay, which makes it easier for me to come back and go in where I need to on this side. It's easier to see what you're doing when you're going through something, or when you have it on the top than it does in the bottom. So that's just a little tip to make it a little easier. So there we go. We have finished this. I hope this has been interesting for you and that you want to maybe attempt a brick stitch. Again, I would check ymark.com and you can learn, not brick stitch, long arm cross stitch. Check ymark.com and find out about the different uses of this fun little, this and brick stitch. Both are really kind of cool little stitches. I don't do a lot of brick stitch or this one because they kind of take a lot longer than anything else, but they are good stitches for doing cushions and things like that. So have a great day and thank you for watching.